Welcome back to Storytime Boulevard, your destination to sleep. I'm Andrew, and I'm so glad you're here. If you've been enjoying our gentle tales, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing these peaceful adventures to life, and it means so much to us. Now, before we begin tonight's story, let's take a quiet moment together. Find a comfortable place to rest. Close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath in, and let it out gently. With each breath, feel your body relax, your shoulders growing heavy, your jaw loosening, your thoughts settling like still water under the moonlight. Tonight's story is a new adventure with our friend Clover, the umbrella mouse, and her loyal companion, Theo. It's called The Umbrella Mouse and the Starlit Voyage, a gentle nighttime adventure across the river. Now, when you're ready, let's join Clover and Theo at the edge of Thimble Street, where the stars are waiting to guide them into the night. It was a warm summer evening on Thimble Street, and Clover, the umbrella mouse, was sitting on the windowsill of Theo's cottage, watching as the first stars began to bloom in the navy sky. Theo, the ever-watchful Jack Russell, was curled on the rug with one ear perked and one ear flopped, as though listening both to Clover and to the night outside. "Do you see it, Theo?" Clover asked, pointing with her tiny paw toward the river that wound past the end of the lane. From where they sat, it looked as though the water had caught the stars themselves, shimmering with flecks of silver that rippled and swayed with the current. Theo tilted his head. "It's just the starlight," he said gently, though even he couldn't deny the way the river seemed brighter than usual, almost glowing from within. Clover leapt lightly to the floor and dragged her small red and white umbrella from the corner. "Not just starlight," she whispered, her whiskers twitching. "It's an invitation." Theo sighed, though his tail thumped the rug, betraying his curiosity. Together, they padded down to the riverbank, where the air was cool and smelled faintly of wild mint and damp grass. The water glimmered as if waiting for them, and at the edge of the reeds, a single lantern bobbed in the current, its golden light flickering softly. Clover set her umbrella gently on the water, and to Theo's surprise, it floated as steady as a little boat. She climbed in, her eyes wide with excitement. "Come on," she called. "Let's see where the stars want us to go." With a reluctant bark and a playful shake, Theo hopped in beside her, the umbrella rocking before settling into the current. As the lantern drifted ahead of them like a guide, Clover's heart raced with wonder. But she couldn't help noticing that, for just a moment, the lantern's glow dimmed, as if warning them that this journey would not be lit so easily all the way through. The umbrella boat drifted after the bobbing lantern, the current tugging them past the last garden fences of Thimble Street and into the hush of the river bend, where reeds whispered like secret keepers and the moon laid a bright ribbon across the water. Clover kept one paw on the umbrella's rim and the other on a tiny sewing needle she used as a paddle, while Theo, paws braced and ears swiveling, murmured, "We can still see the cottage if we turn around." And Clover answered, soft but sure, "We'll see it again, after we see what the river wants to show us." Ahead, the guiding lantern gave a cheerful tremble. Then, as if a breeze no one felt had breathed on it, the flame thinned to a thread. They passed under an old stone bridge draped in ivy, their reflections shivering against the arch. And by the time they cleared the shadow, the lantern's light blinked out entirely, leaving only moonwash and the far-off thrum of a mill wheel. The darkness wasn't frightening so much as deep, like stepping into a room where someone had just blown out the last candle. Yet Theo's voice dropped anyway. "Clover, did it leave us?" "I don't think lights leave," she said, peering at the lantern as it bobbed, dull and glassy. "Sometimes they wait." She drew the umbrella alongside and, balancing with practiced mouse grace, lifted the lantern by its little brass collar. There, scratched around the metal as faint as a sigh, were tiny words she had to angle into the moon to read. "Speak and be seen." Clover steadied the lantern between them. "Maybe the light needs a voice," she whispered. "A true wish. Just a small one." Theo's tail thumped once against the umbrella's cloth. "I wish," he said, clearing his throat like a very serious dog, "that everyone on the river tonight finds a warm place to sleep." The wick caught a ghost of glow, a pale ember. Clover smiled and held the lantern close. "I wish to be brave enough to keep going even when it's dim." The ember brightened to honey, then to gold, and with a soft whoomph that felt more like a heartbeat than a sound, the lantern relit and threw a circle of comfort onto the water. "Oh," Theo laughed, surprised at his own echo under the banks. "It heard us." Clover set the lantern back and gave the needle a tiny stroke, guiding them forward. Now, as they rounded the bend into a stretch of broad, slow water, more lights appeared. lantern after lantern, leading away like a string of summer fireflies. And Clover's whiskers stilled because she saw it clearly. Not all of them were steady. Here and there, a glow quivered on the edge of going out. Farther still, a small flare winked, tried again, and failed. "Look," she breathed, pointing. "They're dimming in a pattern, one by one." Theo followed her paw, eyes gone gentle and wide. "Then we'll find them one by one," he said, calmer now, setting his chin on the rim like a captain with a plan. The umbrella boat slid into the lantern path, the water smelling faintly of mint and rain on stone. And as the next light began to falter, Clover cupped her paws and called across the river hush, "We see you." While Theo, in his best steady voice, added, "Hold on, tell us what to wish for." And somewhere in the quiet between their words and the river's breath, the lantern flickered, listened, and glowed just enough to lead them to the next. The river widened into a meadow's edge, where the grass bent low to drink from the banks, and the air shimmered with golden sparks. Not lanterns this time, but fireflies weaving a constellation of their own in the warm night. Clover leaned over the rim of the umbrella, whiskers twitching in awe. "It's like the stars came down to rest," she whispered, and for a moment she forgot the dimming lanterns ahead. Theo, ever cautious, kept his eyes on the path where the next light glowed faintly, as if it were running out of breath. "Don't be too distracted," he murmured, though even he couldn't resist watching one little firefly settle on his nose, blinking before lifting off again like a tiny lighthouse. The umbrella boat drifted slower here, caught in a pool where the current grew lazy, and the lantern just beyond the meadow flickered, a pale thread of light, stretching thin. "We'll need to help it," Clover said softly. She cupped her paws and called toward the trembling glow. "We're close, don't fade now." Theo wagged his tail and added, "We'll keep your light company." The lantern sputtered, then dimmed so low Clover's heart pinched, until the fireflies, as though answering her plea, swarmed gently around the lantern and cloaked it in their warm, pulsing gold. The lantern relit with a soft rush of honey-bright flame, steadier than before. Clover's eyes glistened as she leaned against Theo. "They're helping us," she said. "We don't have to do this alone." Theo, who liked to believe himself gruff, lowered his ears and admitted, "Maybe this voyage isn't ours alone to carry either. Maybe the whole night wants us to succeed." And as they pushed onward, more fireflies lifted from the meadow to follow them, joining the trail of lanterns, so that now Even the places between the lights glowed softly, like the river itself was learning to hold its own light. The river curved sharply, carrying Clover and Theo into a narrow stretch where the banks pressed close and tall reeds crowded the edges, their shadows long and dark against the water. Here, the lanterns ahead seemed restless, some burning strong, others sputtering as though a gust of unseen wind had passed through them. Clover clutched her sewing needle paddle, her whiskers trembling. "They're fading faster," she murmured. Theo's ears flicked back, his eyes scanning the dimming lights. "It's almost like they're warning us," he said. They watched as one lantern ahead gave a desperate flicker, its glow shrinking to a pinpoint before vanishing, leaving a pool of shadow on the water. The absence was startling, as if a piece of the night had been snuffed away. Clover's small voice trembled, though her courage held. "We can't let them all go dark. If the lanterns vanish, we'll lose the path." Theo planted his paws on the umbrella's edge, steadying their little vessel. "Then we'll have to reach them before they fade." He gave a short, encouraging bark that echoed strangely in the narrow channel, and the umbrella boat rocked forward into the gloom. Clover leaned close to the nearest lantern, cupping her paws around its trembling glow. "Hold on," she whispered. "We see you. We're here." The lantern flickered, flared briefly, then steadied just enough to keep their way lit. Behind them, the fireflies that had followed from the meadow drifted in, their warm lights weaving between the reeds, filling the gaps left by fading lanterns. For a moment, the darkness was pushed back, the path glowing again in soft, uneven patches of gold. Clover pressed her paw to her chest and breathed out. "They're helping us again. We're not alone in this." Theo looked ahead where another lantern faltered dangerously low, his voice firm now. "Then we keep moving, faster, before the rest forget how to shine." And with a push of Clover's needle paddle, the umbrella slid into the uncertain dark, chasing the last threads of light as the river seemed to hold its breath. The river straightened into a long, quiet stretch where the air felt thick, as though the night itself were holding its breath. Ahead, the line of lanterns wavered in the distance, their glow thin and ghost-like. Clover leaned forward, clutching the umbrella's rim, her little heart tapping faster with each dimming light. "Theo," she whispered, "look, half of them are almost gone." He narrowed his eyes, ears flattening against his head. "We'll get to them," he said, though even his voice carried a weight of worry. They glided past one lantern that had already gone dark, its glass cool and lifeless, bobbing sadly in the current. Clover reached toward it, but no warmth came back to her paws. "It feels empty," she murmured, "like it forgot how to shine." Theo pressed his paw against hers, steady. "Then we'll remind the others before they forget too." But as they pressed on, 3 lanterns ahead flickered together, their flames shivering and shrinking until the water ahead fell into near black. The fireflies that had followed them darted anxiously in the shadows, their golden bodies glowing. But the vast river seemed too large for their small sparks alone. Clover clutched her sewing needle paddle, feeling a shiver of doubt. "What if we lose them all?" she asked. Theo's eyes softened, and he touched his nose to her whiskers. "Then we'll light something of our own." His words carried more faith than certainty, yet they gave Clover courage enough to cup her paws around her mouth and call across the water, "You are not forgotten. Your light matters. Don't fade away." Her words seemed to ripple across the river like invisible threads. The fireflies responded first, swooping in a swirling pattern around the nearest dimming lantern, weaving light across its glass. Theo added his voice, deep and sure. "We see you. We believe in you." For a long breath, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, the lantern nearest them flared, catching bright like a heart remembering its beat. Its flame pulsed outward, touching the others. And in a chain of soft pools, one lantern after another rekindled, until the river ahead was bright once more. Clover let out a trembling laugh, half relief, half wonder. "We almost lost them," she whispered. Theo thumped his tail, his eyes shining in the golden glow. But sometimes light needs reminding, same as we do. As the umbrella boat drifted forward beneath the newly glowing trail, Clover glanced back at the lantern that had gone out completely. For all the beauty before them, that single dark shape bobbing in the water stayed with her. She curled close to Theo, the soft rhythm of his breathing steady at her side. "We saved most of them," she said softly. "But I think the river wants us to understand that not every light can be saved." Theo rested his chin on the rim of the umbrella, gazing ahead where the path gleamed brighter than ever. Then we'll honor the ones we can. And we'll keep going, Clover. Always forward. The current pulled them on, steady and sure. Though in the hush between lanterns, both of them felt the truth of the night. The voyage was only just beginning. The lanterns led Clover and Theo onward until the river grew strangely still, the current pausing as though it too was holding its breath. Ahead, half hidden in fog, a shape rose from the water, the broken outline of an old wooden pier. Its posts leaned at odd angles, draped with moss and riverweed, but above it hung 3 lanterns brighter than any they had yet seen, their flames steady and strong, as if untouched by the dimming that plagued the others. Clover's eyes widened, whiskers quivering. "Look, Theo, they're different. They aren't fading at all." The umbrella boat bumped gently against one of the pier's posts, and Theo placed his paws on the rim, ears pricked forward. "Feels like the river wanted us to find this place," he murmured. They climbed carefully onto the planks, which creaked but held beneath their small weight. At the center of the pier sat a curious object, an old wooden chest, no bigger than Clover herself, its surface carved with tiny stars. As Clover traced the etchings with her paw, one of the glowing lanterns above flickered low for the first time, and the chest gave a soft click, as though something inside had stirred. Theo took a cautious step back. "Maybe we shouldn't touch it." Clover, however, felt a pull she couldn't explain. "I think this is where the lanterns are coming from. Maybe this is why they're fading." She pressed her paw against the chest once more, and slowly the lid lifted on its own, revealing not coins or jewels, but dozens of tiny folded slips of paper, each glowing faintly like embers. She unfolded one carefully, her breath catching as she read the words, "For my daughter, that she will never feel alone." Another slip read, "For courage to face tomorrow." Each piece of paper held a wish, tender and trembling, written by someone long ago. Clover's eyes filled with quiet wonder. The lanterns aren't just lights, Theo. They're wishes. And if they fade, it means the wishes are being forgotten. Theo leaned close, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. "Then maybe it's our job to remember them, to keep them alive." As the last word left his mouth, the lanterns above the pier blazed brighter, their glow spilling onto the water and reigniting the nearest dimming lanterns downstream. Clover tucked one slip gently back into the chest and whispered, "We'll carry your light, I promise." The river answered with a hush of breeze, and the umbrella boat tugged at its tether, eager to pull them forward once more. The river seemed calmer as Clover and Theo pushed away from the forgotten pier. But the quiet was different now, heavier, as if the water and the sky were holding a secret between them. The lanterns ahead glowed faintly, a fragile chain of gold stretching into mist. Clover tightened her paws around the umbrella's rim. "We have to keep them burning," she whispered, more to herself than to Theo. But then, without warning, one lantern flickered out. Then another. Then another. Within moments, the river was swallowed in shadow. The lanterns gone as if the night had taken a deep breath and blown them all away. Theo braced himself against the umbrella's edge, ears back, his eyes wide in the sudden dark. "Clover, where did they go?" he barked softly. Clover's tiny heart pounded, her whiskers twitching in the emptiness. The fireflies had scattered too, their glow snuffed or hidden, leaving only the dim reflection of the moon in the water. For the first time, the river felt endless, its surface too wide, too deep, too unknown. She squeezed her paws tight around her sewing needle paddle and whispered, "We can't lose ourselves. If there's no light, then we'll make our own." Theo turned to her, uncertain. But how? Clover shut her eyes and remembered the slips of paper in the chest, each one glowing with a wish. "Light comes from believing," she said firmly, her voice small but steady. She lifted her umbrella handle high and whispered her wish aloud. "For every lost lantern, may there always be a heart to remember it." Theo, moved by her courage, lifted his nose to the dark and added, "For every path gone dim, may there always be someone to walk it." And then a spark, tiny at first, glowing from Clover's umbrella tip, like starlight caught in silk. It grew brighter, spilling across the boat, wrapping Theo and Clover in a halo of warm gold. One by one, the river answered back. Faint lights appeared in the mist, lanterns rekindling, not because of forgotten wishes, but because new ones had just been made. The fireflies returned, sweeping in with a soft, glowing dance, filling the gaps, weaving new constellations in the air. Theo exhaled, his tail giving a steady wag. "You did it, Clover. You lit the night." Clover pressed her paws to her chest, her eyes shimmering. "No," she said softly. "We did it. Together." The umbrella boat drifted forward once more, carried by the current, glowing brighter than ever before. Yet as they moved on, Clover couldn't shake the feeling that the river had tested them, and that the greatest part of the voyage still lay ahead. The umbrella boat carried Clover and Theo beyond the stretch of river where the lanterns had nearly gone out, and soon the current widened into a quiet harbour, bathed in silver moonlight. Dozens upon dozens of lanterns floated here, steady and golden, their reflections dancing across the water like scattered jewels. The air was softer, touched with the scent of wildflowers and rain, and a hush lay over the place, as though the night itself were listening. Clover's eyes shone. Theo, this must be where they all end up. Theo's ears flicked forward, tail wagging once. A harbour for wishes, he murmured. The boat drifted toward the centre, where a great lantern hung above the water, larger than any they had seen before, glowing so brightly it lit the sky as if dawn had come early. Clover cupped her paws to her chest, feeling the warmth of it settle into her heart. These lights aren't just guiding us, she said softly. They're guiding one another. Every wish keeps the next one shining. Theo leaned close, resting his head against her shoulder. And maybe that's why the river brought us here, to remind us that even the smallest voices can keep a light alive. As they sat in the glow, Clover remembered the slips of paper from the chest at the forgotten pier. She whispered into the night, "For anyone who's ever felt their light fading, may you know you are remembered." The great lantern above them flared brighter, sending a ripple of golden light across the harbour, and every lantern answered with a shimmer, their glow steady and strong. Theo gave a soft, contented bark. "I think they heard you." When at last the umbrella boat turned back toward Thimble Street, the lanterns remained behind, glowing like steadfast stars on the water. Clover and Theo drifted home in peace, their hearts full, knowing that the river's magic would always be there, not to chase away darkness, but to show how even the smallest light could shine for someone else. The end. I hope Clover and Theo's journey through the lantern-lit river carried you into a place of peace and wonder. Remember, just like the lanterns, even the smallest lights, a kind word, a gentle thought, a quiet breath can brighten the path forward. As you drift into sleep, may your dreams be steady, your heart be light, and your night filled with warmth and comfort. Until next time, rest well and good night.